Chelsea, welcome back. Today, we are going to go through the real estate closing process. We're going to talk about how it actually works. We're going to go step by step in a lot of detail to help all of those people who are buying their first property or their fifth property or their 10th investment property, just understand what's happening. Maybe they've never thought to ask before, but you're the perfect expert to talk about these things. So let's jump in and talk about how most people are really only going to go through maybe 1 to 3 closings in their entire life. What is the biggest misconception you see that people walk in with about what's actually about to happen?
Well, so it depends on who we're talking about, if we're talking about the buyer or the seller. For the seller, I think the biggest misconception is how quickly it's all gonna happen. If I'm working with a seller who has maybe only either bought or sold 1 or 2 properties in their life or none, they typically are surprised to hear that they don't get their money right when they sign. For a buyer, typically the similar, but they're not wondering when they're going to get their funds. They're wondering when they're going to get their keys. So people typically show up to the closing table to sign, and then they want that instant gratification. So if it's the seller, they want the money. If it's the buyer, they want the keys. And the biggest hurdle we have to overcome is sort of educating them of what the process is.
And so I know we're going to go through step by step, but just walk us through the full journey real quick from signed contract. So for the buyer, signed contract to keys in hand. What are the steps and what are the phases? And if you had to name them, what are they?
Sure. So once a contract is signed, the contract goes to the title company or the law firm to close the transaction. The initial phase of the transaction starts in our office as a overview of the file and an intake process. So we review the current status of title during the intake process. We review the contract to make sure that the contract matches what the current status of title is. If we believe that there are any probate requirements that are needed initially, we make sure to alert the parties during that phase as well. From the intake process, we also send out actual welcome emails to the parties. They will complete our documents, and then the file moves from there to what I consider a processing stage. So, in the processing stage, it will get set up in our closing software. We send out orders for the municipal lien search, the title commitment. If we know that there's a loan, we'll get all of those matters ordered. And once the title commitment comes back, that's really whenever the bulk of the processing work starts, because at that point we have to double check our schedules to make sure that Schedule A matches the contract and what we understand the current status of title to be. And then Schedule B2 is going to outline everything that we have to satisfy as part of getting the file to closing. Standard issues that we see on a title commitment are going to be um, mortgage payoffs, estoppel certificates. Sometimes we'll get a notice of commencement. We have to reach out to contractors, but those are standard things that'll show up in processing. So we get all of those items ordered. Once all of the processing items are ordered and title is essentially cleared and ready for closing, then we'll start finalizing all of the figures with the lender, if there is a lender. If not, we'll finalize the figures with the parties, make sure everyone is satisfied with what the settlement statement looks like. We prepare and finalize the closing documents themselves, schedule everyone for signing. The signing is really something I consider more of a sub phase of the closing process. The closing phase starts when we start finalizing the figures and getting the loan package and getting all the loan documents together. And then as part of that, we also schedule the parties for signing. We actually have them come in to sign. And then once signing is completed and we have funding authorization from everyone, the file is closed, but then it moves to what I consider post closing. So in post closing, we will initiate wires, write checks, and submit all the documents for recording. Once the documents are recording, we issue the policies and mail them out to the clients. So we submit the request for the title searches to our underwriter, and then we receive the search packages back together with the title commitment. So when I'm looking at a title search, I'm making sure that all of the documents that the underwriter found in their search align with what they're showing on the title commitment itself. For a residential transaction, title searches and commitments typically take anywhere between really 1 to 3 days. They don't take that long to get the residential searches back. Commercial searches often take longer. I would say a rush request for a commercial search would be 5 to 10 business days. Um, if I hear someone say something came up on the title search, what that means to me is that something unexpected came up on the title search. Something's always
Mm.
going to come up on the title search. You're always going to have requirements on your Schedule B1. Typically, if someone's telling me something came up, it means that there was a surprise either on their B1, they have a lien or a judgment that they were not aware of, or there's an issue on Schedule B2, most often some sort of easement that they weren't aware of, or potentially an access issue.
You've mentioned in previous episodes that there is a reason why it's beneficial to the buyer to have this extra layer of protection of having a real estate attorney looking at things because they catch things that a lot of agents, a lot of other people might miss. And they know words like survey and lien search and estoppel. Most buyers, I know myself, never have heard any of those words before I actually went through a real estate closing. Can you break down what each of those is and why it matters? So let's start with survey.
Sure. Yeah. So the survey is going to give you essentially what I would maybe refer to as a legal snapshot of the property itself. It's literally a sketch of the property. It is going to provide the formal legal description. It gives you the boundary lines. It shows you where the improvements are. It shows you if any improvements either on the subject property or adjoining properties are encroaching either over your boundary line or if they're on your property, if they're encroaching in any easement areas. It should absolutely show you the location of any easements that are affecting your property. And that is something that should be included in all objection letters. It is not uncommon for me to be involved in a transaction where the title company failed to provide a copy of the title commitment to the surveyor with an instruction to include all items of B2 on the survey itself. So it takes everything that's in the title commitment and it puts it on a literal picture, a sketch of the property that you can see. So if there's an easement on your B2, you should be able to look at your survey and say, oh, here is that ingress egress easement. It runs down the side of my property. I'm okay with that. Or this ingress egress easement runs through the center of my home. That's not okay. We need to object to that. So those are the primary things that a survey is going to show you.
Yeah. And now, so the next one was lien and lien search. Lien spelled Lien. I had never come across this word until I was dealing with real estate. So, what is a lien and why is it important to find out if there are liens present?
Yeah, sure. So when you're saying lien search in the context of a title, what I'm hearing is municipal lien search. So the title commitment is going to do a search of anything that's recorded against either the person's name or the title, and that will include recorded liens, which are recorded in the official records of the county where the property is located. But a lien search is a little different in that a municipal lien search is going to check for any unrecorded municipal liens, code violations. It also checks for code violations. If the buyer knows to request a permit search, it should also include a search of any open, expired, issued permits, as well as a detail of those items. And that's something that every buyer should review carefully as well. If you happen to know that the seller installed a pool on the property 6 months ago, but you don't see a pool permit on your municipal lien search, then it sounds like the seller did not get a permit for their pool, and that's an important note to make as well.
Gotcha. And so, what's an estoppel?
Oh, well, an estoppel can mean a few different things. Most commonly, I think that in our context, it's going to refer to an HOA or a condo estoppel, but it can also refer to a tenant estoppel certificate as well. For HOA and condo estoppel certificates, those are going to be required by B1 on the title commitment. And the context of those estoppel certificates each have very detailed list of things that must be included as promulgated by Florida statute. Most notably, they're going to include what the current assessments are for the condo or for the HOA. It'll include whether the account is currently in collections and whether there are any current violations. If you're buying a property with a condo, one thing that I most often see overlooked for condo associations is the parking. So if you believe that you are purchasing a condo either with an owned parking spot or a very specific assigned parking spot, that absolutely must be included in the condo association's estoppel certificate.